I was sitting in my home office when my phone buzzed. The GPS tracker alert made my blood run cold. My 2019 Honda Civic was moving across town, but I was right here at home. My heart pounded as I opened the tracking app and watched the little blue dot cruise down Maple Street. Someone was driving my car without permission. But who? My wife was at work, and my 17-year-old daughter Chloe was supposed to be at school. I grabbed my keys and jacket, rushing toward the door. The tracker showed my car heading toward the automotive district downtown. My mind raced with possibilities. Has someone stolen it? But then I remembered, Chloe had asked to borrow it last week, and I'd said no. She'd been furious, slamming her bedroom door and screaming about how unfair I was. She'd been giving me the cold shoulder ever since. The blue dot stopped moving. I checked the address and felt sick. Murphy's Used Cars, a sketchy lot known for buying vehicles with questionable paperwork. My hands shook as I realized what was happening. My own daughter was trying to sell my car behind my back. I drove my wife's Toyota as fast as I could toward Murphy's lot. My stomach churned with each traffic light. How could Chloe do this to me? I'd worked double shifts at the factory to buy that Honda. It was my pride and joy, and she knew it. When I pulled into the lot, I spotted my silver Civic immediately. Through the grimy office windows, I could see Chloe gesturing wildly at the dealer. She was wearing her favorite red jacket and had her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked so casual, so confident. I sat in the Toyota for a moment, watching in disbelief. My daughter was actually trying to sell my car. The dealer, a thin man with greasy hair, was nodding and taking notes on a clipboard. Chloe pointed to different parts of the car like she was some kind of expert. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about the car anymore. This was about trust, respect, and everything I'd taught her about right and wrong. I watched her laugh at something the dealer said, and my heart broke into 1,000 pieces. I got out of the Toyota and walked toward the office. Through the window, I heard Chloe's voice clearly. "Yeah, it's totally mine," she was saying to the dealer. "My dad gave it to me for my birthday, but I need cash more than a car right now." The dealer scratched his chin. "Well, it's a nice vehicle." "Clean title?" "Of course," Chloe lied smoothly. "Everything's legit." "How much can you give me?" My hands clenched into fists. She was lying so easily, so naturally. Where had I gone wrong as a father? The dealer reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a contract. He handed Chloe a pen, and she took it without hesitation. I couldn't stand there another second. I pushed open the glass door, and both of them looked up in surprise. Chloe's face went white when she saw me. The pen slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the desk. "Chloe Marie Giambi," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" The dealer looked confused, glancing between us. Chloe recovered quickly, crossing her arms and glaring at me. "Dad, you're being paranoid again." "Paranoid?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're literally trying to sell my car." Chloe rolled her eyes dramatically. "Mom said I could borrow it whenever I wanted. And besides, you never drive it anyway." Her voice was getting louder, more defensive. "You're always working or sitting around the house. It's just collecting dust in the driveway." The dealer cleared his throat nervously. Maybe I should step out for a minute." "No, stay," Chloe snapped. "He's just being controlling like always. Mom told me this car would be mine when I turned 18 anyway." My heart stopped. "What did you say?" Chloe smirked, sensing she'd hit a nerve. "Mom and I talked about it last month. She said Dad was being unreasonable about the car, and that it would be mine soon enough." She picked up the pen again. "So really, I'm just taking what's already promised to me." I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. My wife had discussed this with Chloe behind my back, without talking to me first. The betrayal was spreading like poison through my family. The dealer looked increasingly uncomfortable, shuffling papers on his desk. "We're leaving," I said firmly. "Now." The drive home was silent except for Chloe's angry sighs and the sound of her texting furiously on her phone. I gripped the steering wheel of my Honda, grateful to have it back but shaken by everything that had happened. When we got home, I confronted my wife Beth immediately. She was in the kitchen making dinner, humming softly to herself. She looked up with a bright smile that faded when she saw my expression. "We need to talk," I said. Beth glanced at Chloe, who had stormed upstairs. "What happened? Did you tell Chloe she could have my car when she turns 18? I asked directly. Beth's face flushed. She turned back to the stove, stirring the pasta sauce a little too vigorously. "Well, we discussed it as a possibility." "Without talking to me?" "You're never around to discuss anything," she burst out. "You work all the time, and when you're home, you're buried in your phone or watching TV." Chloe needed to know she had something to look forward to. I stared at my wife in shock. When had we become strangers living in the same house? That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Beth pretended to sleep beside me. Every few minutes, she'd shift or sigh, but neither of us spoke. The silence felt like a wall between us. I couldn't stop thinking about Chloe's casual lies at the dealership. She'd been so confident, so convincing. How many times had she lied to me before? And Beth's betrayal cut even deeper. We'd been married for 20 years, but she'd sided with our daughter against me without even discussing it. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I quietly got up and peered through the bedroom door. Chloe was tiptoeing toward the front door, my car keys in her hand. She was fully dressed and carrying a small backpack. My blood boiled. She was trying to take the car again, probably to meet up with friends or maybe to attempt another sale. I watched her slowly unlock the front door, wincing when it creaked slightly. I waited until she was outside before following. Through the window, I watched her get into my Honda and start the engine. The headlights illuminated our driveway as she backed out slowly. This time, I was ready for her. I quickly threw on clothes and grabbed my wife's keys. By the time I got outside, Chloe was already driving down our street. I followed at a distance, keeping my headlights off until I reached the main road. The GPS tracker made following easy. She was heading toward downtown again, probably to one of her friends' houses. At 17, she thought she was so clever, but she had no idea I could see her every move. She stopped at a 24-hour diner on 5th Street. Through the big windows, I could see her talking animatedly to a boy I didn't recognize. He looked older, maybe in his 20s, with multiple tattoos covering his arms. My protective father instincts kicked in. Who was this guy? Why was my daughter meeting him in the middle of the night? And why had she needed to steal my car to do it? I parked across the street and watched them. The boy kept gesturing toward the parking lot where my Honda sat. They were definitely talking about the car. After about 30 minutes, they both came outside. Chloe handed him my car keys. I watched in horror as the stranger got into my Honda. Chloe climbed into a beat-up pickup truck, and both vehicles pulled out of the diner parking lot. I followed the pickup, my heart racing. They drove to a rundown apartment complex on the east side of town. I parked behind a dumpster and watched as they both got out. The guy was definitely older than I'd first thought, probably mid-20s with a scraggly beard and clothes that looked like he'd slept in them. "Thanks for doing this, Kyle," I heard Chloe say as they walked toward the apartments. "My dad's being such a jerk about everything." Kyle jingled my car keys. "No problem, babe. My cousin will pay cash, no questions asked. Your old man will never even know it's gone." My blood turned to ice. This wasn't just about borrowing the car anymore. They were planning to steal it permanently. Chloe was working with this Kyle character to commit an actual crime. I grabbed my phone and started recording. If they were going to steal my car, I needed evidence. I watched Kyle pocket my keys and follow Chloe into the apartment building. 20 minutes later, only Kyle came back out. He got into my Honda and drove away into the night. I sat in that parking lot until dawn, waiting for Chloe to come out. My mind raced with questions. How long had she been involved with this Kyle guy? Had Beth known about him? And where was my car now? The GPS tracker showed it parked at an address across town, probably where Kyle lived or where his cousin was waiting to buy it. I had two choices: call the police and report it stolen, or confront Chloe first and try to handle this within the family. When Chloe finally emerged from the apartment building at 6 a.m., she looked surprised to see me waiting by my wife's Toyota. "Dad," she said nervously. "What are you doing here?" "Get in the car," I said quietly. "But I..." "Get in the car, Chloe. Now." She climbed into the passenger seat, avoiding my eyes. I could smell cigarettes and alcohol on her clothes. My 17-year-old daughter had been drinking and smoking all night while helping someone steal my car. "Where's Kyle?" I asked. Her eyes widened. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me anymore, Chloe." I saw everything. The drive home was tense. Chloe stared out the window, occasionally wiping tears from her cheeks. I wanted to comfort her, but I was too angry and hurt to find the right words. "He said you'd never notice," she finally whispered. "Kyle said rich people like you always have insurance and stuff." "Rich people?" I almost laughed if it wasn't so tragic. "Chloe, I work 10-hour shifts at the factory. I saved for 2 years to buy that car. We're not rich, we're barely middle class." She looked genuinely surprised. "But you and Mom always have money for stuff." "Because we budget carefully and work hard," I explained. "That car represents months of overtime and weekend shifts. It's not just some possession I can replace easily." When we got home, Beth was in the kitchen making coffee. She looked up anxiously when we walked in. "Where were you two?" "Ask your daughter," I said bitterly. Chloe burst into tears and ran upstairs. I heard her bedroom door slam shut, followed by the sound of loud music. Beth looked at me expectantly, waiting for an explanation. "She stole my car and gave it to her boyfriend to sell," I said flatly. Beth's coffee mug slipped from her hands and shattered on the kitchen floor. "What?" I told her everything: the midnight escape, the meeting at the diner, Kyle driving away with my Honda. With each detail, Beth's face grew paler. "You followed her?" she asked when I finished. "All night?" "Someone had to," I said. "Our daughter is running around with criminals, Beth. She's involved in car theft now." Beth knelt down and started picking up the broken ceramic pieces. "There has to be an explanation. Maybe Kyle was just borrowing it, or maybe..." "Stop making excuses," I exploded. I heard them talking. Kyle's cousin was going to pay cash for my car. This wasn't borrowing, it was theft. Beth cut her finger on a ceramic shard and cursed under her breath. As she ran cold water over the cut, I could see her processing everything I'd told her. "What do we do now?" she asked quietly. "First, we get my car back. Then we figure out how to fix our family." I pulled out my phone and checked the GPS tracker. My Honda was still at the same address across town. I decided to retrieve my car alone. Beth wanted to come, but I thought it would be safer if she stayed home with Chloe. I had no idea what kind of situation I was walking into. The address led me to a small house with peeling paint and an overgrown lawn. My Honda was parked in the driveway next to 2 other cars that had seen better days. I sat across the street for a few minutes, trying to figure out my approach. I could see movement through the front window. At least 2 people were inside. One of them was definitely Kyle. I recognized his scraggly beard and oversized jacket. Taking a deep breath, I got out of Beth's Toyota and walked up to the front door. My spare key was hidden in a magnetic box under the Honda's rear bumper, something Chloe didn't know about. I knocked on the door firmly. After a moment, Kyle answered. His eyes widened when he saw me. "Oh, shit," he muttered. "I'm here for my car," I said calmly. "The silver Honda in your driveway." Kyle tried to close the door, but I put my foot in the way. "Look, man, I don't want any trouble. Then give me my keys and we can pretend this never happened." Kyle hesitated, glancing over his shoulder. I heard a woman's voice from inside the house asking who was at the door. "Just give me the keys, Kyle," I said. "This doesn't have to get complicated." "I already gave them to my cousin," he lied. "He's at work right now, won't be back until." I pulled out my phone and showed him the GPS tracker app. "I know exactly where my car is at all times. It's been sitting in this driveway for 6 hours. Your cousin's story doesn't add up." Kyle's face went pale. He clearly hadn't known about the tracker. "Look," I continued, "I could call the police right now and report this as theft. But I'd rather handle this quietly for my daughter's sake." A woman appeared behind Kyle, probably in her 30s with bleached blonde hair and multiple face piercings. "What's going on, Kyle?" "This is Chloe's dad," Kyle mumbled. "He wants his car back." The woman laughed. "The little princess said you wouldn't miss it." Guess she was wrong. My hands clenched into fists. They'd been laughing about me, treating my car like it was just some easy score. "Keys." "Now," I said firmly. Kyle reluctantly reached into his pocket and pulled out my keys. As he handed them over, the woman grabbed his arm. "Don't be stupid, Kyle. We already promised it to Tony for $3,000. My blood boiled. They'd actually arranged to sell my car to someone else. This was bigger than just Chloe's teenage rebellion, she'd gotten mixed up with real criminals. "Tony's going to be pissed if we back out now," the woman continued. Kyle looked nervous. "Maybe we can work something out," he said to me. "Split the money or something?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You want me to pay you to steal my own car?" "We put in work on this," the woman said defiantly. "Chloe promised us it would be easy money." I felt sick thinking about how my daughter had gotten involved with these people. Had she promised them other things too? How deep was she in with this crowd? "The only deal I'm making is letting you walk away without calling the police," I said. "Take it or leave it." Kyle handed me the keys without another word. The woman cursed and slammed the door as I walked back to my Honda. Driving home in my Honda felt like a small victory, but I knew the real battle was just beginning. I had my car back, but my relationship with Chloe was in ruins. And I still didn't understand how she'd gotten mixed up with people like Kyle. When I got home, I found Chloe and Beth in the kitchen having what looked like an intense conversation. They both stopped talking when I walked in. "Did you get it back?" Beth asked. I jingled my keys. "It's in the driveway where it belongs." Chloe wouldn't look at me. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. "Chloe has something to say to you," Beth said gently. I waited, but Chloe just stared at the table. "I'm sorry," she finally whispered. "For what specifically?" I asked. I needed to know she understood the full scope of what had happened. "For taking your car without permission." "And?" She looked up at me with confusion. "And, for lying about it?" I realized she still didn't get it. She thought this was about breaking rules, not about the serious criminal activity she'd participated in. "Chloe, you didn't just borrow my car. You helped strangers steal it with the intention of selling it permanently." Beth looked shocked. Chloe, is that true? Chloe's face crumpled. Kyle said it would be fine. He said you guys would just buy another one with the insurance money. I sat down across from her, trying to stay calm. Chloe, insurance fraud is a serious crime. And even if we could replace the car, that's not the point. You betrayed my trust and worked with criminals. Kyle's not a criminal, she protested. He's just trying to make some money to help his mom pay rent. He was planning to sell stolen property, I said firmly. That makes him a criminal. And it would have made you an accomplice. Beth put her hand on Chloe's shoulder. Honey, how did you even meet this Kyle person? Chloe wiped her nose with a tissue. At Madison's party last month. He was really nice and said I was mature for my age. My heart sank. A much older guy targeting my naive daughter with compliments and attention, it was a classic predator move. Has he asked you to do anything else? I asked carefully. Besides help with the car? Chloe shook her head quickly, but something in her expression made me think she wasn't telling the whole truth. Over the next few days, I noticed changes in Chloe's behavior. She was quieter than usual and spent most of her time in her room. She'd stopped asking to borrow the car, which should have been a relief, but it actually made me more worried. I also noticed she was getting a lot of text messages. Her phone was constantly buzzing, and she'd check it nervously before quickly putting it face down on the table. On Thursday evening, while Chloe was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I shouldn't have looked, but parental instincts overrode privacy concerns. The message was from Kyle. Tony's not happy about backing out of the deal. You need to fix this. My blood ran cold. I quickly took a photo of the message with my own phone, then put Chloe's phone back exactly where she'd left it. When she came downstairs, I was sitting at the kitchen table pretending to read a magazine. Everything okay, Dad? She asked nervously. Should I be worried about anything? I asked back. She grabbed her phone and checked it immediately. I watched her face go pale as she read Kyle's message. Chloe, are you in some kind of trouble? Chloe looked terrified. She kept glancing at her phone like it might explode. Kyle's just upset, she said quietly. But it's fine. I'll handle it. Handle what exactly? She started to leave the kitchen, but I stood up and gently caught her arm. Chloe, if someone is threatening you or pressuring you, I need to know about it. That's what parents are for. Tears started running down her cheeks. You'll just make it worse. You always make everything worse. The word stung, but I could see she was scared. Try me, ISA. TS kicked into high gear. How much money? $500. I felt sick. My daughter was being extorted by criminals, and it was partially my fault for not recognizing the danger earlier. Chloe, listen to me very carefully. You don't owe Kyle anything. He was trying to steal our car. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Kyle's threat and wondering how dangerous this Tony person might be. I'd gotten my car back, but now my daughter was potentially in danger. Around 2 a.m., I heard Chloe's bedroom door creak open. I quietly got up and peered down the hallway. She was tiptoeing toward the front door again, fully dressed. This time, I followed immediately. I grabbed my keys and wallet, pulling on a jacket as I watched her get into Beth's Toyota. She'd obviously taken the spare keys from the kitchen hook. I followed her to the same apartment complex where I'd confronted Kyle before. But this time, there were more cars in the parking lot and more people hanging around outside the building. It looked like some kind of party or gathering. Chloe parked and walked nervously toward the building. I could see her hands shaking even from my hiding spot behind a dumpster. A group of older guys approached her in the parking lot. One of them was Kyle, but the others were strangers. They surrounded her in a way that made my blood boil. I was out of my car and walking toward them before I even realized I'd made the decision. "Chloe!" I called out as I approached the group. All 5 guys turned to look at me. Kyle looked panicked, but one of the other men, a tall guy with a shaved head and multiple tattoos, just smiled coldly. "You must be the dad," he said. "I'm Tony." So this was the mysterious buyer. Up close, he looked even more dangerous than I'd imagined. There was something in his eyes that suggested violence was always an option for him. "Chloe, get in the car," I said without taking my eyes off Tony. "Actually," Tony said, "little princess here owes us some money." "Breach of contract, you might say." "She doesn't owe you anything," I replied firmly. "She's a minor, and any contract involving stolen property is invalid anyway." Tony laughed, but it wasn't a friendly sound. "You know, I was really looking forward to that Honda. Clean title, low miles. Would have been perfect for my needs." The way he emphasized needs made it clear he wasn't talking about legal transportation. "Find another car," I said. "This one's not for sale." "Everything's for sale at the right price," Tony replied. "The question is, what's your daughter's safety worth to you?" The threat was crystal clear. I felt rage building in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. These guys were clearly dangerous, and Chloe was caught in the middle. "Let's talk about this reasonably," I said. "What exactly do you want?" Tony grinned, sensing weakness. $5,000. Cash. Consider it compensation for my time and disappointment." "That's extortion." "That's business," he corrected. "Your little girl made promises she couldn't keep. Now someone has to pay the consequences." I looked at Chloe, who was crying silently. She looked so young and scared, surrounded by these criminals in a dark parking lot. This was all my fault for not protecting her better. "I need time to get that kind of money together," I said. "You've got until Saturday," Tony said. "Bring it here, to this parking lot. Come alone, or things get complicated for your family." As if to emphasize his point, one of his guys moved closer to Chloe. She flinched away from him. "Don't touch her," I warned. Tony held up his hands in mock innocence. "Hey, as long as you pay up, everyone stays safe and happy." The drive home was silent except for Chloe's quiet sobbing. I wanted to comfort her, but I was too focused on figuring out how to handle the situation. $5,000 was more than I had in savings. I'd have to cash out part of my retirement fund or take out a loan. But paying extortion money to criminals would only make them think they could come back for more later. "I'm sorry, Daddy," Chloe whispered. It was the first time she'd called me that in years. "I know, sweetheart," I said. "But we're going to fix this together." When we got home, Beth was waiting in the living room. She took one look at our faces and knew something was seriously wrong. I told her everything, the threats, the money demand, Tony's dangerous crew. With each detail, her face grew paler. "We have to call the police," she said immediately. "And tell them what?" I asked. "That our daughter was involved in planning to steal our own car, and now the criminals want compensation? Chloe could face charges too." Beth looked torn between protecting Chloe and doing the right thing legally. "There has to be another way," she said. I was starting to form a plan, but it was risky. Friday morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day researching Tony and his crew online. It didn't take long to find information. They had multiple arrests for car theft, drug dealing, and assault. Tony himself had just gotten out of prison 6 months ago. I also drove by the apartment complex during daylight hours, studying the layout and looking for security cameras. If I was going to handle this, I needed to be smart about it. That evening, I sat Chloe and Beth down for a family meeting. "I'm not paying the extortion money," I announced. Beth looked panicked. "But they threatened. If we pay, they'll just keep coming back for more. Criminals like Tony don't just take their money and disappear. They see weakness and exploit it. Chloe started crying again. So what happens to me? We're going to end this properly, I said. But I need both of you to trust me and follow my instructions exactly. I outlined my plan. It was dangerous and required perfect timing, but it was the only way I could think of to protect my family while making sure Tony couldn't hurt anyone else's daughter in the future. Are you sure about this? Beth asked when I finished explaining. It's the only way, I said. Saturday evening came faster than I wanted. I arrived at the apartment complex parking lot exactly on time, but instead of bringing cash, I had something else entirely. Tony was waiting with the same group from before, plus a few additional guys I didn't recognize. They surrounded my Honda as soon as I parked. You got my money? Tony asked. I've got something better, I said, pulling out my phone. I showed him the GPS tracking app that had been monitoring my car's location for months. This little app has recorded every place my car has been, including detailed logs of when it was stolen and brought here. Tony's confident expression wavered slightly. I've also got photos and videos of Kyle taking my keys, your guys discussing selling stolen property, and you threatening my family, I continued. Everything's already been uploaded to cloud storage and shared with several people. I held up a second phone. And this one is currently recording our conversation and streaming it live to a secure server. The parking lot suddenly felt very quiet. Here's my counteroffer, I said. You and your crew leave my family alone permanently, and I don't send all this evidence to the police. Tony's jaw clenched. You're bluffing. I hit play on a video file showing him threatening Chloe just 2 nights before. His own voice filled the air. What's your daughter's safety worth to you? Tony stared at the phone in shock. He clearly hadn't expected me to have recorded evidence of his threats. Delete that, he growled. Can't do that, I said calmly. It's already backed up in multiple locations. But here's the good news, as long as you stay away from my family, it stays private. Kyle looked terrified. Tony, maybe we should just... Shut up, Tony snapped. But I could see him calculating the risks. Prison time for extortion and threatening a minor versus walking away from one failed car theft. You've got until midnight to decide, I said. After that, everything goes to the police regardless. I got back in my Honda and drove away, my heart pounding. The plan had worked, but I wouldn't feel safe until I was sure Tony had accepted the deal. At 11:47 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number, fine. But if you ever cross us again, the deal's off. I showed the message to Beth and Chloe. We were finally free. 6 months later, Chloe started her senior year with a new understanding of consequences and better judgment about the people she trusted. She'd learned that respect couldn't be stolen, it had to be earned through honest actions and good choices. And that hidden tracker? Best investment I ever made. It didn't just help me find my car, it helped me save my daughter.